Hello, welcome to the House Bill 3 in 30 video on charter school funding. My name is Nora Rainey and I will be narrating the presentation today. Key TEA personnel that contributed to this presentation include myself, Leah Lopez, Amy Copeland, and Dina Black. The topics we are discussing today include Charter School Tier 1 and Tier 2 state aid before and after House Bill 3. Included in our discussion of Tier 1, we will address the small and mid-sized charter allotment and maintenance of effort concerns. We will also discuss calculation of the 30% for salary increases, TRS contributions for charter schools and the staff subject to the minimum salary schedule, and next steps for charter schools. The first topic we are discussing today is Charter School Tier 1 state aid before and after House Bill 3. Prior to House Bill 3, charter Tier 1 allotments were calculated using the state average of all school districts' adjusted allotments, which was 65-45. This average recognized the state average impact of the Cost of Education Index and the small and mid-sized district adjustments. Total average M&O funding per ADA for charters was $98.15. After the passage of House Bill 3, charter Tier 1 allotments are calculated using the state average of all school districts' basic allotments, which is currently $61.53. This average no longer includes adjustments for Cost of Education Index, which was repealed, or the small and mid-sized district adjustments. A new standalone small and mid-sized charter allotment was created. Total average M&O funding per ADA under House Bill 3 for charters is estimated at $10,386. It is important to note that the state average basic allotment will likely increase closer to $61.60 in February of 2020 after the TEA receives school district adopted M&O tax rates. The left column of your screen lists the allotments that were funded using the state average adjusted allotment prior to House Bill 3. The right column of your screen lists the allotments that are now funded using the state average basic allotment. Allotments marked with an asterisk indicate that House Bill 3 increased the funding weights and/or expanded program eligibility. Additionally, a new dyslexia allotment and a new early education allotment were created and added to the list of allotments funded using the state average basic allotment. House Bill 3 also added several new allotments to Tier 1, which are not funded on the state average basic allotment. This includes the small and mid-sized charter allotment, which we will discuss next. With the elimination of an adjusted allotment multiplier for student weights, charter schools will receive a district level adjustment. Every charter school, regardless of size, gets the allotment. The allotment is based on a calculation from the small and mid-sized allotment for school districts. Please note that the Commissioner will seek to exercise the provision of House Bill 3 related to unintended consequences to make adjustments for special education maintenance of effort. More information on this is coming in future communications from the agency. The reason for the change to the small and mid-sized allotment for charters is based on a recommendation from the Texas Commission on Public School Finance's final report to improve transparency and separate student-centric weights from district-centric weights. The standalone allotment increases public transparency towards spending associated with districts by size characteristics, while helping the state streamline formulas to focus more on the needs of the student, regardless of what district the student attends. On this slide, we illustrate how statute prescribes the per ADA calculation. Step 1 calculates the small and mid-sized allotment funding per ADA of small and mid-sized districts. Step 2 grows the small and mid-sized allotment funding per ADA of small and mid-sized districts by the ratio of the total regular program ADA of small and mid-sized districts to regular program ADA statewide. Step 3 removes the impact of the increase to the basic allotment resulting from the move to current year values, which results in Step 4, the charter school small and mid-sized allotment per ADA. This methodology is outlined in House Bill 3 enrolled section 1.002, page 3. A frequently asked question is, are charter schools eligible for the fast growth allotment? The answer is no, charter schools are not eligible for the fast growth allotment. The fast growth allotment is meant to offset school district losses resulting from the switch to current year property values. The answer is MOE related to special education compares year-over-year expenditures for students with disabilities, not the size of the Tier 1 allotment for the charter school. A key takeaway is charter schools may use funds from the small and mid-sized district charter allotment to meet MOE requirements. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, the Commissioner will seek to exercise the provision of House Bill 3 related to unintended consequences to make adjustments for special education maintenance of effort. More information on this is coming in future communications from the agency. Our next topic of discussion is Charter School Tier 2 State Aid before and after House Bill 3. Charters are still funded using the state average school district tax rates for Tier 2. As illustrated on this slide, while the formulas for Tier 2 state average tax rates did not change under House Bill 3, the underlying tax rates did change. For the 1920 school year, the guaranteed yield for golden pennies is 98.56 and the state average DTR is approximately 0.0594. The guaranteed yield for copper pennies is $49.28 and the state average DTR is approximately 0.0264. The next slide will illustrate the total funding comparison between charter schools and school districts. As illustrated on this slide, House Bill 3 increased funding for all school districts and charter schools. On average, school districts' total per pupil funding increased more than charter schools' per pupil funding. Also, charter school gains will be offset by increased TRS contribution requirements that districts were not subject to. Other House Bill 3 frequently asked questions for charter schools. How does House Bill 3 change pre-K requirements for charters? The answer is, the requirement for charters to offer pre-K was not changed with House Bill 3. But for charters who choose and are approved to offer pre-K, those requirements have changed. For more information, we recommend Charter Staff watch the Pre-K House Bill 3 in 30 video. How does House Bill 3 change charter requirements for gifted and talented students? The answer is, House Bill 3 does not change charter requirements for gifted and talented students. Please watch the House Bill 3 in 30 video on gifted and talented for more information. Another frequently asked question that requires a little more detail and background information is, how should charters calculate the 30% for salary increases? In order to calculate the gain in state aid, you will need to obtain the latest 2018-2019 Summary of Finances report and the latest 2019-2020 Estimate of State Aid template for charter schools. Step 1 is to first calculate the 2018-2019 revenue per ADA using the 2018-2019 Summary of Finance report. Step 2 is to complete the 2019-2020 Estimate of State Aid template and calculate the 2019-2020 revenue per ADA. When completing the template, please make sure that you are using your projected annual ADA and not your projected first 6 weeks ADA. In Step 3, calculate the difference between the 2019-2020 revenue per ADA and the 2018-2019 revenue per ADA to determine the gain per ADA. Charters are required to provide compensation increases to full-time employees other than administrators. This requirement applies to future school years where the basic allotment is increased. 75% of the 30% must be used to increase compensation paid to classroom teachers, full-time librarians, full-time counselors, and full-time nurses. Charters must prioritize differentiated compensation, which includes benefits such as insurance premiums for classroom teachers with more than 5 years of experience. 25% of the 30% may be used as determined locally to increase compensation paid to full-time charter employees, except administrators. This category may also include the categories of employees captured under the 75%. A frequently asked question is, are charters who newly exist in 2019-2020 required to calculate compensation increase? The answer is no. The compensation increase requirement applies to increases realized 2019-2020 over the 2018-2019 school year. Charters that did not exist in the prior year have no basis to calculate the 30%, so they are not subject to this requirement. Another frequently asked question is, do charters have to increase salaries up to the minimum salary schedule? The answer is no. Charter schools are not subject to the minimum salary schedule. However, charter schools are still required to use 30% of their funding gain for compensation increases for employees who would be subject to the minimum salary schedule if they were employed at a school district. For a full discussion on budget planning for compensation increases, please see House Bill 3 in 30 video on budget planning for teacher compensation. The next topic we will discuss is TRS contributions for charter schools. Even though charter schools are not subject to the state minimum salary schedule, charter schools are now required to pay the contribution the districts are required to pay. Specifically, this is the portion of an employee's salary that exceeds the threshold defined by the state's minimum salary schedule for the 4 categories of employees covered. For a full discussion of this topic, please see the HB 3 and 30 video on budget planning for teacher compensation. A frequently asked question is, does an educator certification status matter when determining TRS payments a charter must make? The answer is no. It's any employee that fits the category, even if they aren't certified. The 4 categories of employees are classroom teacher, school librarian, school counselor, and school nurse. Charter schools should download the Charter School Estimate of State Aid Excel tool to help them estimate their 2019-2020 revenue per ADA. Charter schools should consult with attorneys before making decisions related to compensation increases and/or TRS contributions. Charter schools must ensure that they are remitting the appropriate amount of TRS contributions related to the salaries above the minimum salary schedule. Charter schools should refer to all HB 3 and 30 videos for more specific information. Please visit the House Bill 3 website for the most up-to-date information. If you have any questions related to this presentation, please email hb3info@tea.texas.gov. Thank you for joining us today for this HB 3 and 30 charter school funding presentation.